guys are now part of multiple pieces of work that have left me in puddles on the floor, just a weeping mess. This film, Call Me By Your Name, and then the Goodbye Michael episode of The Office. I'm curious, when you watch your own work, do you have the capacity to cry at it, or are you too close to it to have that kind of visceral reaction?
It's interesting because I don't, watching yourself, there's a bit of a disconnect there. I find that the first time, and I don't speak for both of us, but the first time you watch a movie that you're in, you're a little too close to it, and on subsequent viewings, it makes it easier to kind of take in the whole story and be affected by it.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think that's exactly, like on first viewing, I'm often white knuckling it and just really anxious about how it all is and the presentation of it. But I think, I don't know if I've ever wept, but in watching something I'm in, but like I can resonate, or I can take myself out of the story, or I can see myself out of it.
So it might be maybe years down the road that maybe if you catch it on, HBO or something and see it, maybe you might get sucked in a little bit. Yeah. That last shot of Call Me By Your Name, man, gets me every time. I had such a profound reaction to this movie last night. The first thing I wanted to do when I got out of the theater was get my phone and call my dad and just say, I love you. He and I have never experienced anything like this before, but that's the sort of reaction it made me have. I'm curious about the impact it had on you in your own personal relationships, your relationship with your dad, and then your relationship with your kids, and how did it make you want to get them on the phone every day?
How did that feel for you?
I mean, I also haven't gone through something like this, but at the end of Tweak, Nick writes something that's very beautiful where he says he didn't realize until he read Beautiful Boy, which is David Sheff's memoir, what he was putting his family through and his parents through. And I think working on this film, independent, like I said again, of addiction or drugs, you see and it's not your responsibility as a child to parent your parents, because it's not by nature, but I think I realized in working on this, wow, the gravity of a parent's love and perhaps torturously their sense of responsibility towards their kid.
Right.
And as a parent, as soon as you have kids, you begin worrying about them the moment they're born and never stop worrying about them. And all of this stuff resonated with me. I have a 14 and a 17-year-old, and we haven't experienced this sort of thing either. But I can empathize, and it's a terrifying. It's really every parent's worst nightmare, and it gets inside of you. So at the end of the day, all I'd want to do is get home and give them a big hug.
Absolutely. Having David and Nick around, I'd imagine, is such a valuable asset whenever you're making a movie like this. And I imagine you would come to them with a million different questions. But at the beginning of this production, when you were able to sit down with them, what was the number one first question you had to have an answer to?
I didn't really have those sort of questions. So many of them were answered in the books that they'd written. In meeting David specifically, I wanted to get a sense of his soulfulness, because that's what I picked up from reading Beautiful Boy, and I wanted to experience the kind of man he was. And to his credit, he didn't want to give me notes on how to portray him or specific eccentricities that he has. He was very generous, and I just wanted to kind of take away his heart and his decency as a person. That's what I gleaned from knowing him.
Right.
And I think similarly, it wasn't like a question in as much as like the anxiety you feel when you're meeting anyone of it's funny because we have a really great relationship now, and I feel especially over the last days in Toronto, we've spent a lot of great time together, Nick and I, but it is like, I don't know, it's one of those rare things in life when you meet someone, there's an anxiety present because for whatever reason, how high the stakes are in meeting them, and independent of like anything that happens in the movie, it's just like, if you're playing someone, that's a weird thing. I don't know how I would, I can tell you actually easily if someone were playing me, that would be a really, why didn't I get that part?
Yeah, no, it's true. You're really indebted to them, and I think we both felt a responsibility to Nick and David do it as best we could. You know, it's never going to be perfect, but to try to give the best semblance of the type of people they are and the type of relationship they had.
Well, you guys say it's not perfect, but in my eyes it was. You guys did an amazing job. And thank you for making such an important movie I think people need to see.
Thank you.
Genuinely.
Thank you.
If you come to
Nice to
Chicago,
meet you.
let me know. I'm very
Yes,
comfortable
yes,
out